Today we're going to talk about how you know a source is reliable. And at Wilson, we use an acronym called RAVEN. So with RAVEN, we look at who's creating the source. And so we can't simply say if something passes or doesn't pass RAVEN, because when you deal with people and publications, they're imperfect. And so a source can be really good with RAVEN or great, it could be fair or poor. And what we want to stick to is we want to stick to sources that are closer to good and great than fair or poor. So with RAVEN, we look at five different things. And it's an acronym, so the R stands for reputation. And when we consider the reputation, we consider what do you know about the reputation of the author, the sources, and or the publication? Do they have a reputation for reliability? Have they won awards by professional organizations? Are they in a position of authority? And if you can't find anything on the author specifically, then you look at the publication. So, for instance, if it says, if you're reading an editorial and it says that it is by the New York Times editorial board, well, that's not a person. So you would look to the New York Times for their reputation. We also want to consider the ability to observe. Is the author in a position that allows them to get access to reliable evidence? And if the article is about an event, did the author actually observe the event, or did they talk to people who observed the event? We also consider if there's a vested interest. Does the author have a personal stake in the topic or event? Would the author gain anything by lying? Would the author gain something by telling the truth? If an author is considered an expert in foreign policy and they publish a bunch of falsehoods about foreign policy, then they're putting their professional reputation at risk. And so they have a vested interest in telling the truth, and they really don't want to lie because it can ruin them professionally. We also want to consider if the author has expertise. Are they considered an expert in their field? Do they have specialized knowledge, or are they just writing about something? Does the evidence come from a source that has expertise? We see this a lot with journalists. If you're a journalist, you might be interviewing a scientist who has expertise, but you yourself might not have expertise in science, and this would be considered a reliable source. We also want to consider neutrality. Is the author neutral about the issue, or is there a bias evident? And is the source of the information neutral or biased? Now, to some degree, everything has a bit of bias because the author chooses what to include or not include. But what we really want to look for with bias is it so biased that it interferes with getting quality information across?